All right, so we are being recorded, and let's get started. Again, welcome everybody to cybersecurity or email security awareness training this morning on a bright and early Monday morning. Uh, it wasn't my idea, it was Sharonda's idea to do it on a Monday, by the way, so you get to blame her for that. No, I'm happy to do it anytime. It's sometimes it's not a very interesting subject, but it is something that we have to deal with. And I am Jim Bryant with Pinnacle IT. You may or may not know. If I haven't met you, I know a lot of you there, I know. And we provide computer services and cybersecurity services for CYS. We've been doing that for a number of years. And so we appreciate you guys as a client, and I'm glad that you're all here to learn more about how to be safe on the internet, basically, and in email. So we're going to be talking about some best practices, but we're going to focus mostly on email today. So our goal is to raise awareness and to educate everybody. We are, we live in a world, unfortunately, where people are doing bad things all the time, and we need to be aware of what's going on and how to prevent any kind of data breach in your organization. So that's why we're here, and that's what we're going to be talking about. We want to, if there was ever a reason that you think that your computer's been compromised, we want you to report that as soon as possible. The sooner we know about it, the sooner we can help you avoid damage. And so we always want to make everybody aware that if you suspect anything, please, early reporting is best. And then the threats out there, they come from, just so you know, the threats, you'll hear me say the word hacker, talking about somebody who's trying to, do something bad to your computer. You'll hear me sometimes refer to them as bad actors. That's a common terminology these days in my world, but whatever we call them, they're crooks, and they are out to harm, and usually are trying to find an angle to be able to make money off of compromising data at your place. So some terms that we need to kind of talk about, and you guys may be familiar with all of these, I don't know, but just in case, ransomware is, you hear that term a lot these days. It's malicious software that prevents access to the computers and locks up your data, and then they want you to pay a ransom to get it back, which is a really bad idea. We never recommend that. Phishing is when you get a trustworthy entity that asks through email for sensitive information like a social security number, credit card numbers, login IDs, or passwords. Now, this says a trustworthy entity. You and I both know that most of these are not trustworthy. They just appear to be that way. So if anybody's asking for information like that today via email, you have to be suspicious. Sorry, let me go back. Spoofing. Spoofing is somebody pretending to be you that's not you. And yes, they can look identically like you. I had a person call me in town from a small business and said that they had gotten a legitimate email from a firm, but when they clicked on the information, it took them to a bad site. And unfortunately, they had already transferred about $24,000 to these folks, to the crooks, and they were never able to get that money back. So, yeah, people can look really identical to you. So just be aware of that. And there are things that we can do, and there are things that CYS is doing to make sure that doesn't happen to you. Spam, also known as junk mail. You guys have known that term probably for a long time, and we do use a sophisticated spam filters in order to keep that kind of junk out of your inbox. But as you know, it still gets through, or some of it does. Malware. Malware is any malicious software. That's what it stands for, is malicious software that's intended to do some kind of harm or interfere with your computer or your network in some way. And then finally, external media. You guys may know that as USB drives or jump drives or thumb drives. hear them called all sorts of things, but anything, even the old CDs and DVDs and things like that, you could plug into your computer from outside of the computer where it's not stored on your computer. All of that's known as external media. So let's talk a little bit about how ransomware works. Step one, the malware is usually received via spam. So you get a bad email, you may or may not recognize it as that, and it's loaded with some malware. And next step is that it downloads that information to your computer. And then it starts encrypting your files. Um, you'll see a ransomware notice next. And then finally, you have to pay the ransom or you have to go back to your backup and restore your system. Probably the safest way to be sure that we're going to avoid any kind of long-term effects of ransomware is, if you get attacked, is to put the most recent backup in place. But, you know, for you guys, you've got a lot of different things going on. So if you imagine a day where you get attacked and it's toward the end of the day or it's overnight and you have to go back a day or two in backups from all the work that you've done, locally on your computer, it's going to be a pretty big nuisance and it can be a pretty big interruption. The big thing is that once that ransomware attack happens, is that they can export information often from your system. And if that happens, that's a real data breach that can be costly because what they're looking for is personal information about anybody that you may have, stored in your system somewhere. It could be employees, it could be, in your case, students and residents there. Wherever that information is kept and however it's kept, if it's electronic, it is susceptible, and that's why we have to make sure that we're protecting from ransomware. All right. So who is affected? Well, ransomware's raw number saw a peak in 2021 with over 623 million attacks. It did decline some after that to 317 million. The payout percentages have gone up as well. In other words, the ransom that they're demanding keeps going up. So they're doing fewer attacks, but they're being more successful with getting money, unfortunately. Various industries have been affected. Probably the top five are industrial, engineering, manufacturing, technology, retail, and healthcare. And yes, education and nonprofits and all of those get attacked too, but they're probably not in the top five because they're not usually great sources of money. So what does this all mean for you and CYS? Well, any organization today, whether it's large or small, needs to have policies and procedures in place. And for the practical reasons that I've talked about, where there are dangers that we want to avoid and we don't want to have our data compromised or any of that. But now there are some outside factors. You guys do communication with the state and various agencies and all that, and more regulations are coming down that require us to have some of the cybersecurity elements in place. Also, insurance. People don't think about it sometimes, but most places have a general liability policy for insurance in case somebody slips and falls or whatever those things cover. But there are also cyber liability insurance policies out there, and you guys have one. In order to comply with that, you have to meet some of these cybersecurity standards. So that's one of the big drivers behind us doing this training today, is they want us to make people aware of how to protect themselves. All right, let's look at ransomware damage around the world. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because it's, when we start talking about $300 billion, that's way out of the league that I'm in and probably the league that CYS is in. But just know that ransomware damage is high and it's getting higher. That's the big message off of this chart, is that it's not going away anytime soon as long as they continue to be successful with getting ransom collected. So some of the statistics, and I want to stop here on these first couple just because I want to emphasize a couple of things. A ransomware attack occurred every 3 seconds in 2023. It's expected to be, you know, faster than that going forward. Currently, we're seeing 2-second occurrences, and that's from statistically speaking, and just from our practical experience in our offices where we help so many people in the region. The 75% of successful ransomware attacks are due to human error. And I really want to emphasize that one. If we didn't have any other bullet points on this slide, you need to know that. So what kind of human error? Well, it's when you and I fall prey to somebody pretending to be someone they're not, or clicking on something just because we're curious. Um, the Hang on just a second. Let me get some more people in here. There we go. Right. I think we got them all in here. But anyway, the human error side of it is when we make mistakes. Sometimes we know it, you know, as soon as we do it. I've done the very same thing. I clicked on a link in a UPS email that looked very legitimate. And in the moment that I was clicking, I realized I wasn't expecting anything from UPS. So I had to hurry up and shut my computer down and take care of all that. So it happens to everybody. It can happen to everybody. But again, that's why we're doing this training, is just to make everybody aware that, you know, email is a common way to communicate today, but we have to be suspicious of everything that happens on email. I always tell people, look, if you're not expecting the email, even if it's from me or from Lori or, you know, if you're not expecting it, that's the very first radar that needs to go off, and then, you know, inspect it a little bit. And we're going to talk about some more of those details in just a minute. 29 days is average downtime if a company experiences a ransomware attack and a data breach. And that's tough. If you think about not having your system for 29 days, it would be hard to navigate and survive. Average cost of recovering from ransomware attack is now 5.8 million to 10.8 million. It's not that much for smaller organizations like CYS, but it's still more than you ever would want to consider paying. 95% of security attacks are now financially motivated. Of course, they're trying to find a way to make money. They can sell personal information about you and I or anybody that you work with and make money on it. This is an organized crime. It's like today's mafia, if you would, and they are relentless. They never stop trying to attack us. 80% of companies that paid a ransom were attacked a second time. That's a big reason that we don't recommend that anybody pay ransom. 92% of those who've been attacked still had unrecoverable data. In other words, they paid the ransom to get their data back, and they don't get their data back. So there's no point in trying to do business with the criminals once you've been breached. Then 29% of affected companies eliminated positions. I'm going to show you a slide in a minute about a company that had to lay off 300 people right at Christmas time because of an attack. And then 66% of companies say that industry requirements are driving their cybersecurity spending, which is true. That's where I was talking about regulatory compliance or insurance compliance. You know, federal, state, nowadays there are more and more regulations that are coming around that are just specific to cybersecurity and having certain standards in place. And we expect those to continue to increase. All right, so this is the company I was talking about in the fall of 2019, a Sherwood-based company here in Arkansas that employed 300 people was hit with ransomware, and then ended up having to close its doors and let all of the employees go just right before Christmas. So it can be devastating, but you know, and I know this is all kind of gloom and doom and scary and so forth, but I want you to know that CYS is taking the steps to try to prevent these things and doing as much as we can do, you know, to avoid it. So the big thing is because the human error part is so big. We've done just about everything we can do technically. Let's make sure that people understand how to be safe with their email and so forth. Also, in the winter of 2020, there was a cyber attack at Texarkana Water Utilities that led to some widespread outages and a lot of havoc for them. they ended up a year or so later, within the year, getting a grant to be able to beef up their security posture. But that was after suffering a lot of trouble and causing people a lot of um, grief with their water bills and things of that nature. All right, let's talk about phishing. And you guys probably have heard this term, phishing with a PH instead of an F. PH is there because it originally started with phones, and phishing attacks are the go-to social engineering strategy. Social engineering is when somebody is trying to interact with you for the purpose of doing something malicious on your computer and breaching the data. So the human element of that is what it's referring to when it says social engineering. And you guys have seen these phishing emails. They want to get you to click. You hear on your phones and on the social media and all that kind of stuff, you'll hear it called clickbait. It's the same thing. It's just a form of phishing. They would like to get you to click on something that ultimately is not going to lead to a good place or get you to spend money in a way that you shouldn't. And you never know where those links go. So the 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 big takeaway here is, how do I keep from falling for that? Well, again, we got to be suspicious. 50% of organizations see daily phishing attempts, and um, it's a way to get into your computers, and is used probably in 80% of the cases. Organizations that are under 250 employees average about one phishing email per every 323 emails. And I don't know if you guys ever look at your junk mail, but if you're like me, I have more junk mail that comes in than legitimate mail. And it's relentless. It never stops. I would say that stat's a little bit low. I think it's more than one per every 323. But just be aware that a lot of that email, if it looks funny, it's probably not safe, and you just have to stay clear of it. All right, phishing attack methods. One is, and what most of us are commonly used to, the junk mail or you know, any of those that are sent out on a mass scale. Everybody gets a copy of it, right? Well, spear phishing is a kind of a more narrow group. That's where a specific person or group of people are targeted. It might be for CYS that, for some reason they want to target, I don't know, therapists there, or maybe they're wanting to target the leadership group. You know, but spear phishing is when they've learned a little bit about your organization and know who to talk to try to do or manipulate certain outcomes. And then there's a specialized type of spear phishing that's called um, whaling, or whaling, and it targets a big victim within a company. We often see things like, somebody pretends to be the CFO and gets somebody to transfer money that is illegitimate. And I've seen some of that personally with some of my clients, and some have lost money, some have gotten their money back, but usually once that money is transferred, there's no way to get it back. And so anytime they're targeting, like a specific person, in this case it might be Lori, but Lori, Carrie, Melinda, anybody in a role like that is going to be a target in an organization once they learn a little bit about you. All right. So, what is business email compromise? Well, it's a scam. Criminals send an email message that appears to come from a known source, making a legitimate request, like what you see here on the screen. And, some of the ways, there's some things highlighted here to look for in an email like this that show up and show that it may not be legitimate. And so, just like the local company I mentioned a minute ago, that they got an email from one of their vendors, it looked 100% legitimate. It turns out, we did the research for them. It turned out that it was from a legitimate source. But on the other side, the vendor had been compromised. Somebody hacked into somebody's email and sent a real email, but inside the email was a request to change the bank account information for their next payment. And so they changed that information, sent the $24,000, and it's gone forever. So just be aware that, again, we're dealing with crooks here. They don't care about the organization. They don't care about you, and they will harm you in order to try and make money. All right, how do they do it? Well, this business email compromise, they identify a target. They usually know who they want to talk to and why. They start grooming them. They may start the one that I'm talking about. They started a conversation about an outstanding balance, which was true, and um, got the person engaged. Person's busy, they're answering the email on their phone. They're not really paying attention. They click, they make the change, and the money's gone. Exchanging information back and forth. I'm sorry, back a step. So they exchanged the information, then finally there was a wire transfer, and that's what happened. So, in any case, and I think you guys all know this. I know Melinda does, and Lori. You never transfer any large sum of money unless you have more than one person confirm that it's legit, and especially if that money's going someplace that it doesn't normally go to. So. I always tell people, look, it's best if there's an email request, it's best to pick up the phone and call whoever's making that request to be sure that it is legitimate. All right, so where do these cyber attacks come from? 48% of them are malicious email attachments and office files. So any email that comes in with an attachment that has a Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, any of those kind of files, 48% of the time, that could be a malicious email. I'm not saying that's the stat in your office. It may not be, but you just need to be aware that that's often where the malicious software hangs out because Microsoft Office is so common. 19% of data breaches involved internal actors, so bad actors on the inside of an organization. Maybe somebody that's mad, maybe somebody that's looking to make a buck, and it may just be somebody that got, engaged in a conversation that they thought was legitimate and it wasn't. So that's why I say pick up the phone and call if it's not something you're expecting, if it's something unusual, and especially if it involves any kind of banking or financial information at all. And I would guard, just so I've said it, I would guard the information about your clients the same way, obviously. And I'm sure you guys do that already, but it's not just financial. It can hurt if they get information about the people that you're trying to serve and help. And the same thing with employees. 65% of groups used spear phishing as the primary infection vector, they call it, or the primary way that they infect systems. And then about $265,000 was lost to cyber attacks every second. All right, so here are some things that we can do. Always be suspicious of any unsolicited communication, whether it's by phone or email, text, especially now today. And don't click on any links or attachments in anything that you suspect is wrong. I have a little cartoon that I sometimes show that says, how would I know if it's bad if I don't click on it? Well, just assume that it's bad until we know that it's good. Directly contact the sender, just like I said, pick up the phone, call, verify. Report suspected phishing scams as soon as you can. We need to know. If you think there's somebody that's trying to scam you guys, we want to know about it so we can help you resolve it and avoid any problems. And the FBI would like it if we all would report anything that is a cyber attack so that they can at least try to corner some of the criminals that are out there doing this. Spoofing, I told you earlier, is somebody pretending to be you or someone that you know in order to trick you into doing something that you don't need to do. the it, it is very difficult today because you don't know if the other company has been hacked, like the example that I gave, or if somebody has just intercepted an email address and started pretending to be you. And so just be aware. And again, CYS is taking some steps to make sure that spoofing is not easy to do for your email. So that's a good thing and so forth. But always be looking to verify that those email addresses are correct and accurate. In this example, it shows a domain name that's from China, and obviously would probably be one that is not legitimate. And you guys have the domain name of cysinc.org. Somebody could put cysiinc.org as a domain name, pretend to be you, and people probably wouldn't catch it because the double I just would kind of blend in. So just be aware that spoofing is uh, rampant and be on the lookout. If it looks weird, look at that email address and make sure it's who you think it's from. And then external media, we talked about it a little bit earlier, where you have jump drives or thumb drives or USB drives, CDs, DVDs, anything that you can plug into your computer from the outside. Those kind of things, one successful way to hack into businesses would be to just drop randomly some of those USB drives off in the parking lot somewhere and label it Christmas pictures. Well, I want to be helpful, pick it up, go stick it in my computer, look at the Christmas pictures to find out who it belongs to so I can return it. And as soon as it's plugged in and recognized, the download of malicious software starts. So I would not, I recommend that you do not plug anything into your computer from outside CYS unless you absolutely know that it's legit. All right, and then artificial intelligence is all the buzz or AI, and it has changed the threat landscape a lot. Artificial intelligence can write phishing emails. It can mimic writing styles. I can feed it a few of my emails and say, okay, write an email that sounds like me, writing, and it can do that. It also copy voices, make videos. I mean, you're seeing some TV ads now that really kind of demonstrate what AI can do. And somebody can pretend to be you. They can make a recording of my voice, make it sound just like me, and put it on the phone to you, and you could be scammed. So just be aware that AI is kind of ramping up all this. And the best thing to do is just have good cybersecurity technology in place and to make sure people are educated like what we're doing today. All right. We're all still using passwords most likely. And what makes a good password? It's length and complexity. I probably don't have to tell you that. And we're all sick to death of them. I don't know about you guys, but I've got over 100 of them, I think, in a list that I use. And uh, there's some stats down here about what passwords are, but here's the slide I like to show. Anywhere in the green is would be a good password. And so I'm going to start over on the far right because those are the strongest passwords. If you make a password with upper and lowercase letters, numbers, and symbols, and you'll notice that a lot of your banking and those folks require that these days, it's because that's the most complex way to put together a password. Okay. And if you make that at least 12 characters long, by today's or in today's technology, it would take 226 years to crack that. I would even say that if you can get a password that's 11 characters long and it takes 3 years to crack, that would be good because I want you to change your password about every 6 months anyway. Nobody likes doing that. Nobody wants to hear it. But the recommendation is don't reuse your passwords for everything that you have access to and make sure that they are long and complex. And I know it's difficult, but letters, numbers, upper and lower case, that's the strongest that you can get, and longer is better. Passphrases are common today, and they're very effective. If you put all numbers in your password, it's only going to be a very short time, most of the time instantly, that somebody can crack that password. But if you make it complex, you can have a pretty good passphrase. Maybe your um, whatever your favorite song is, a lyric from your favorite song, and add some upper and lower cases and some special characters. But any of that stuff will work to help you make a strong password. All right. Finally, don't log into any network resources, including email or VPN, from any public computers. Um, Refrain from using insecure public connections without having some kind of protection there. I always use my phone to get any connection that's not at my office, so that it would be less likely to allow somebody to hack into our computer. And always turn your screen off when you're away. If you don't know it, you can hold the little Windows key down and hit the letter L, and that will lock your screen and keyboard, so that when you come back, you have to put your password in again. It's just a good idea to practice. And don't allow other people to use your computer with you signed on, unless you're right there monitoring, what they're doing. I always ask people, since I come usually in the role of support, is it okay if I get on your computer? And you don't have to stay with me if I'm a known legitimate actor, but if it's somebody you don't know very well, you probably just want to hang near and kind of observe what's going on. All right. Finally, to summarize, we need to avoid opening suspicious attachments or any suspicious emails. We need to check links before we click on them. You can hover over a link and kind of look at it and see if that domain looks legitimate. If it's suspicious, I do this every day. I don't know how many times a day, just to try and make sure that anything that I'm working with is legitimate. Be cautious with any unsolicited tech support calls. Somebody calls and says, "Hey, I'm Jim from tech support, and I need you to," and whatever it is they're asking for. If you're not expecting it, again, usually with us, if we're calling you, it's because you have contacted us for help. Question any suspicious requests, obviously. Avoid any public Wi-Fi networks if you can, but that's mostly if you're going outside of your own network. Monitor others that are using your device. Respond to any unusual computer behavior. If there's something weird going on in your computer, it's okay to contact support and the help desk and say, "Hey, is this okay, or is there something wrong?" Handle any external media securely. And again, make sure that you know where it comes from if it's coming from outside your computer. And then restart and power on your PC routinely. You don't have to do it every day, but we'd like for you to do it at least once a week and kind of refresh it, but keep it on overnight so that we can do the updates that we need to do. And with that, I will stop talking and let you guys ask any questions that you have. I'm a little bit over our time. I'm sorry about that. Any questions? Everybody go to sleep. Lori, anything in the chat?
I don't see anything.
All right. Well, good. Well, I appreciate you guys tuning in and listening. I know it's not very fun on a Monday morning, but it is necessary education, and I appreciate your time. Anything else that I can do for you? All right. I'm going to stop our recording and we'll be finished. Thank